All right, let's dive into a powerful and honestly pretty surprising idea today. What if the very institutions we've built to protect us are actually fueling one of the biggest threats we've ever faced?
This sentence right here, it really sets the stage for everything we're going to talk about. We're all so used to thinking about security in terms of borders and armies, right? But what if the biggest adversary out there isn't another country at all? What if it's our own planet's weather?
And this just nails the problem, doesn't it? These new threats, they don't follow the old rules. They completely ignore political boundaries, and you can't solve them with traditional military force. I mean, you can't exactly intimidate a rising sea level or strike a deal with a drought. So this brings us to a huge contradiction that's right at the heart of modern security. Our source material calls it the paradox of protection. The basic idea is that the very organizations we count on to keep us safe are, in a lot of ways, making a global crisis even worse. And at the core of this paradox is what's been called the carbon giant in camouflage. Just think about it for a second. Fighter jets, massive naval fleets, entire divisions of tanks, they all run on fossil fuels. Militaries are some of the biggest single users of oil on the entire planet, and their environmental footprint is just staggering. And you can really see this paradox play out when you follow the money. While the world is pouring trillions of dollars into traditional defense, the money set aside for things like climate adaptation and resilience is, in many cases, actually shrinking. It's a really stark picture of our global priorities. To really put that footprint into perspective, get this. If the U.S. military were its own country, its fuel use alone would make it one of the world's biggest polluters, ranking higher than many industrialized nations. So we're not talking about a small side effect here. This is a massive, nation-sized impact. But, this goes way beyond just abstract data and budgets. The consequences are deeply human, and they're affecting the very people who are supposed to be ensuring our security. Just consider this absolutely shocking fact. For soldiers deployed in really hot parts of the world, the environment itself has become the main enemy. They are now at a greater risk from heat stroke than they are from actual combat. The climate isn't just the backdrop for conflict anymore. It's become an active threat to the troops themselves. And that vulnerability, it extends to our most critical infrastructure. Key naval bases, the bedrock of a nation's maritime defense, are flooding more and more often because of rising sea levels. And this isn't just some inconvenience. It messes with military readiness and creates huge strategic weak points. At the very same time, the military's actual job is being rewritten right before our eyes. Instead of only training for conventional warfare, soldiers are increasingly being sent out as first responders to climate-fueled disasters like massive floods and hurricanes, evacuating civilians from a crisis they may have indirectly helped fuel. Okay, so we've laid out the paradox and the very real human cost. But what does the solution even look like? How do we start to imagine a defense force that's actually fit for the challenges we're going to face in the middle of this century? To figure out where we're going, we kind of have to look at where we've been. Modern militaries have always been tied to fossil fuels. World War I literally ran on coal, World War II on oil, and the Cold War on jet fuel. For more than 100 years, military progress has meant more power, more range, but almost never cleaner energy, which leaves this huge question mark hanging over 2050. And here's where we get a potential answer. The source calls this idea green shields. Just imagine a future where security is completely redefined, where drone surveillance is powered by solar grids, where Arctic patrols are less about conflict and more about humanitarian aid as the ice melts, and where climate modeling becomes just as critical to national security as any old battle simulation. It's a huge shift from projecting force to projecting resilience. All of this, it leads us to one final, really fundamental question. To face the realities of the climate age, what does it truly mean to be strong and secure? This brings us to a really provocative idea, not just a dream, but a strategic question. What if demilitarization was actually one of the boldest, most effective climate strategies we have? The numbers here are just mind-boggling. Our source suggests that if we reallocated just 10% of global military spending, that's it, just that little slice, we could fully fund a massive transition to renewable energy, restore vital ecosystems, and protect the world's most vulnerable communities. It's about investing to prevent the very conflicts that climate change is expected to trigger. So what this really means is that the very metrics of power are changing. In the climate age, real security might not be measured by how many missiles you have, but by the strength of your natural defenses, like mangrove forests that protect coastlines and the stability of your food and water.
This completely reframes the whole mission. The fight for a stable climate isn't some secondary concern for our defense institutions anymore. It is the front line. And to win it, we're going to need the courage to completely rethink what defense truly means.